Well, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and start meeting. First item on the agenda, consider approving the minutes held on August 24.
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Second by Dave. All in favor? Next item up is a voting to accept fire department grant. Chief Coughlin, yes. Standing by, Chief.
Standing by, make sure.
Standing by.
Appreciate it.
He didn't get the memo.
We're all set. Thank you.
Good to go. Starting from the top.
From the top.
We'll start again. Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and start the meeting again. First item on the agenda is to consider approving the minutes held from August 24th.
I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion is made, second by David. All in favor? Next item on the agenda is second.
No, this time.
Is voting to accept the fire department's grant. Chief Coughlin's here for an update.
All right, thank you. So we were awarded a assistance to firefighter grant, AFG grant. Fiscal year of the grants is 2021, not that that matters much. So we were awarded $49,517 to purchase turnout gear and a gear dryer. Gear dryer was an item that we'd originally penciled in for the new building. That was something that kind of got cut out of the FT&O cost. And so we've been awarded a grant for that and for the turnout gear. The Oakland share of that is 5%, which is $2,357.96. So that's the 5% match, and that money has to be new money to the fire department. It can't come out of my operating budget or any money that's already allocated to the fire department. It has to be new money. So that's what we would be asking for to have approval so that we can purchase the almost $50,000 worth of equipment. The turnout gear, if we can swing it, because prices have gone up a lot, but we put in for coat, pants, helmet, gloves, hood, and boots. So it'd be a complete ensemble for 13. With prices going up, we're not sure exactly how that's going to work yet, but we'll go out and get our prices from different vendors and work our magic, hopefully.
I make a motion, we authorize the town manager to find $2,357.96 somewhere to pay our share of that.
Motion is made. Do we have a second? Second by Don Bowman. All in favor?
So is that authorizing me to transfer that out of the town's fund?
Wherever you find it.
Okay. Because I can find it. Thank you.
Awesome.
And actually, Chief is here to give you an update on his new fire stuff.
Yeah, just real quick. So a couple of months now that the full-time crew has been working. I think everybody knows that, the first couple of weeks we had them all on days, so we could kind of everybody get a feel for each other and working for our department, did a lot of training, got them up to speed on a lot of things. And then they started their 24-hour rotations that they've been on now for a while. So last month we had 108 incidents total. 58 during when we back up a little bit, we divided the day into a day and a night. So the daytime is 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nighttime is 5 p.m. to 7 the next morning. So on that daytime shift, they did 58 runs, and on the night shift, they did 50. So pretty balanced as far as having that staff on the 24-hour rotation. Obviously, no calls went unanswered. I think we had 2 calls that month that were handled strictly by just the full-time personnel that was at the station. We did have some walk-ins, that people after hours come to the door to report an incident of some kind. So again, having someone there that's answering that call box, because before, it didn't go anywhere, it's just internal. So they're all working out really well. We haven't had any issues. They've obviously been doing a lot of work, kind of getting familiar with equipment in town still, and learning the processes and the policies and the people. But they're all really good fits. They're enjoying the time here. We got good hires. They've already started some projects. I mentioned at the department head meeting the other day, we've hung some memorabilia out in the truck bay. the old sign of the station and some old plaques and stuff. It looks really nice. So stop in sometime and see that. That's a project that one of them took on and got that stuff up. So we're filling the days with not just their regular duties, but trying to do different projects and things, even, you know, with averaging about 3.5 calls a day. So like I said, it's working out really well.
What's an example of an incident that someone would show up at the fire department after 5 o'clock to report?
Well, we had one just the other day that someone had fallen nearby the station, and they came to the station rather than calling. So they were there and able to, you know, respond to that call. We've had people walk in, they report that they see a fire somewhere. Typically they're someone burning with a permit or without a permit. People will stop in with sometimes on their way to the hospital. So they're going to the hospital, they see the fire station, they pull in because they're having some sort of medical, needs some medical attention, we can call it, things like that. So it's, you know, usually it's to report something that they've either driven by or possibly going, heading in from another town, stopping here.
Good.
Questions? Thank you.
Good, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Before we're all done with the chief, but I'd like to first thank and congratulate him for the $49,000 grant. I don't know if you noticed, but that brings us total up to $844,000 since he's been working here. It's substantial money. But now he's one of 2 grant writers that we actually have in town right now. So thanks.
Yeah, the other one's in the room too. I mentioned too, Tony Thibodeau worked on this with me, kind of trying to get him in and working on these grants, and he put a lot of time in on this as well. So he's been kind of working with me on the grants.
Yeah, still impressive. I mean, it's pretty incredible for a small town to get that kind of money. Yeah, well worth that.
Good job, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Next item up, discuss the sewer department budget.
Yeah, we have
Boyd is here.
Boyd, and I just, while we're on the grant thing, I'd like to go and mention that Boyd wrote 2 grants this year. One, we received $500,000 on the sewer department, and he just recently has secured $150,000 with the boat landing. So that's $650,000 that Boyd has written successfully within less than a year, actually. So thank you, Boyd, and congratulations on that. Boyd is here to talk about his budget. We've had kind of an interesting year, and having said that, we've got some paperwork that we've passed out to you. One sheet looks like this, and the other sheet is more of a written sheet that's from Boyd as well. Having said all this, I'd like to turn the floor to Boyd, and you can take it and go with it.
Okay, so last year was a pretty tough year for us. We got the June meeting on our budget. We knew we were going to be over budget, just didn't know how much. So it was a fairly substantial amount last year. And probably the best to do is to go over this one first, because it kind of give you where we were at and then where we're going to be heading. So electricity was over by about a little over $16,000 last year. A lot of that has to do with 2 factors, really. Haven't been able to pump at night because we lost one of the variable frequency drive units last year, which runs our big pump. So we actually had the electrician come in, because with everything right now with not getting parts or anything, I had no idea how long that was going to take to get there. So I had them come in and put a manual switch in so I could use one drive for both pumps. So at least we could limp along until a new VFD come in. So that was a few $1,000s. It cost us that, but it bought us some time. So not having the VFD, plus we've had a odor issue we're trying to deal with at the head of the siphon. One of the customers right at the head of the siphon gets a pretty good charge of odor whenever the pumps come on in the summertime. They don't get it in the fall, they don't get it in the winter or spring, but it's when things dry out and it's just very concentrated sewer. So we tried some things at her house. We've actually made some improvements on it, but haven't quite gotten rid of it. So we're actually, we have a permit from DOT to go in and install a vent, which is really the last ditch effort to try to get rid of the odor from her vent. It's coming up through her vent. And I've experienced it. It's when we experienced it like a year ago, and it was significant. And it's gotten a lot better, but it's still there. So we'll get that resolved. We're gonna do that in the next couple of weeks. Once that's done and the new drive unit is installed, which I hope to be within a month, that should allow me to go back to pumping nights. So that'll save us about, it's just about $1,200 a month that I was saving on the months that we could pump at night. So, and you really can only do that during dry weather or low flows.
Can I just interrupt this for just a second? On her situation in particular, if this doesn't work with this fan, this pump that we put on there, we're actually gonna take it to the next level and put a septic system in for. It would be cheaper for us to install a septic system on our house than it would be to pay the extra costs on the electricity. That's the
Or
line.
chemicals and electrical. I mean,
Right.
you know, the
This
next
is the
thing is you start
last
adding
ditch
chemicals.
attempt without going that far with it. We're gonna have to pull her off of the system, and it's just a design deal, where that line goes up over the mountain and it goes down the Webb Road. Her house happens to be sitting right where that vent is. And that's
Right.
where the
Well,
problem is.
And what happens is the siphon drains every time the pump stops. So when the pump starts again, you can imagine that siphon is full of air. And when you displace that air with the liquid that I'm pumping, that air has to go somewhere and it goes right into her service. So, like I said, we've done some things with her service connection. We've actually did that, I think, last year. We relocated her sewer service at our expense, at the town's expense, to try to resolve that. It did make it significantly better, but it hasn't completely gotten rid of the issue. So hopefully with those things are done, she's taken care of, the new drive units installed, and I can go back to pumping nights like I was before last year. So building maintenance was another one. We were just over about $7,600 over. That one, Public Works was doing some paving on the road and that yard with all the work that was done back in 2012. And plus, it's been a long time since that paved. Seemed like that was the time to do it. Hindsight being 2020, you know, I would have probably held off on that, but we did that early in the fiscal year, thinking that it was going to be a regular year for us, and it was anything but regular. So we were over in that line item. The big items are the two that you see, number 3 and number 4. The big one and the one that's the most difficult to get a handle on is the Webb Road sewer charges to Waterville. Waterville gets charged by Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District based upon the previous year's flows and charges. So they develop their budget, then they look at all the flows that come from everybody, and then they divvy it up based upon that. So we never know until they figure their numbers. We usually find out in like August or sometimes our first bill is what our new rate is. Last year, the rate went up. There's another sheet that I've got in here that I can show you. If you look on the second page of this group, you'll see some columns. I went back and tracked this from 2012 to the current year. And I included in the third column over, second column over is annual precipitation. Third column is total gallons that we pumped to Webb Road. And then the fourth column is the Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District treatment fee charge that they charge to Waterville, which Waterville passes to us. You can see in 2014-15, it was $0.0009 dollars per gallon, and last year it was $0.00123, which is a pretty significant jump from the year before that, which was $0.00109. So, but you can kind of see from looking in the past, it goes up, it goes down, it all depends on the past year's flows. So we never really know what we're going to see on that. But overall, when I went back and looked at it from 2015, 14 to now, we're looking at about 33% that the KSTD fees have gone up. We've been able to hold our budget, but I mean, that's a big chunk of our money that we're sending to Waterville. So, and a lot of that is the clean water we've been talking about, trying to get, you know, old pipes replaced or manholes, you know, picked up to reduce the clean water. So that's a pretty significant charge. So when you couple that with the high flows, if you look at that column 3, Last year, we pumped 107, almost 108 million gallons through the Webb Road. We have two connections to Waterville, Webb Road and Kennedy Memorial Drive. And Kennedy Memorial Drive is not a lot of flow there, so it's a little more stabilized. But you can see from the flows, other than 2013, 14, this was about last year was the highest year because the groundwater table was up. We got rain throughout the year. We never got the dry period. So that 30,000, almost 31,000 over was related to the KSTD increase. It's almost like the perfect storm, plus the high volume of flow gave us that significant overage. If you look at this year, they've already calculated out, because I had asked for that before this council meeting, this coming year's charges, and you'll see that actually it's gone down from last year. And I just did a quick calculation based on the 107 million that we pumped last year. If you were to apply the new rate, that's a $15,000 savings from last year, just in the rate alone. And I don't anticipate with the drought conditions, we're gonna be anywhere near 107 million. We're probably gonna be more like in the 80s or 90 million. So that'll be kind of double to our benefit, next year. So I think this coming year, we should be in very good shape, assuming we don't have a extraordinarily wet year from here on out. Final one, as far as a big expense, was DOT paving project, which was Church Street, Main Street, and Fairfield. They were putting basically, I think, 5/8 of an inch on it. There's a lot of old risers, frames, and covers. Kind of got one shot to replace those when DOT is working, and to make sure they don't just pave over them. That costs almost $40,000 to have all those manholes adjusted before DOT paved, and that was not something we planned on. So that was just for paving, and you've got a couple months to get your stuff in order. That's what we did. So
I'd like to just talk about that for just a second.
Yep.
When MDOT comes in to pave, we sometimes don't know until a few months beforehand, so we don't have a chance to build this into our budget. I have an issue with the sewer department paying to raise these manhole covers on a road that's a paving project. As far as I'm concerned, the MDOT pays us to go and pay to plow all these roads. And we have about $270,000 that is sitting into an account that we can use for projects and maintenance and stuff. And I really have a hard time thinking that we're gonna make 800 ratepayers on a sewer department to pay for road infrastructure. If we're paving these roads and we have to raise these manhole covers, that's part of the road project. It really shouldn't be part of the sewer department. And even if it was, the 6,500 people or so who live in this town benefit from these sewer departments because of businesses and stuff. And when Boyd and I were talking about this, I can't get that out of my head. Why are we making 800 ratepayers pay for road improvements? And that's what this is. We could pave over the top of the manhole covers, and then we'd have to dig them all up. I just think it should be part of the road building project. And if we've got $270,000 sitting into an account that we never spend any of, why can't we use that to pay for this? Instead of taking it out of that.
Does it say anything in that fund about what it's supposed to be
Road
designated?
improvement,
That's all. It doesn't say it has to be on.
well, road improvement would be raising the manhole covers
Yeah,
for
right.
pavement.
I think it's all part of the paving project. I don't know why we don't do that.
I wanted to open it up for discussion to see where you guys were on this. Instead of sucking it out of this budget that's being paid for 800 people, or 800 rate users, it should be spread out amongst the taxpayers in town. On the road.
Makes
And
sense.
if we're able to do that, we're gonna have to transfer $56,000 out of his fund equity to offset this increase in budget. That's gonna cut that number down a lot to do that. Have you got any comments on this one?
So, yeah, I know there are other towns like Waterville, like for example, the city paves, Waterville Sewer District has to go out there on their dime to pay those expenses. I guess the only difference with Waterville is they've got some big time users like Hutamaki and others that kind of help to defray some of those costs a little bit instead of residential customers having to foot the bill for it. So I can see both sides of it, really. And I
Town
can
of
see the,
Skowhegan is just the opposite. The town of Skowhegan,
oh, are they? I
all
don't
the
know.
taxpayers pay for that.
I've seen it done both ways, so and I can see the benefits and the positives and negatives of both, so it's really a matter of what's fair, I guess, and I don't really have I've seen it both directions and I kind of see both ends of it, so I don't really have it.
Doing that doesn't make the sewer system work any better, just makes the road better.
It makes,
By not having a big hole there or a boat.
Well, we have to, I mean, we've got manholes in town that are buried that we just haven't had the funds to get around to dig up. So as we come across them, or as Jeff's doing a road project, working with Public Works on them, it works pretty good. But when you're doing the volume and getting out of those busy streets like Fairfield Street, Kennedy Moore Drive, DOT is gonna be paving that this year. Next year in 2023, that's nothing that Public Works needs to be out there with all that traffic. That's a contractor we hire to get out there for traffic control and everything. That's just too busy of a roadway like Fairfield Street and everything. So those are when you get into the bigger money, when you have to hire a contractor because of, I just don't think the volume, we have the volume of crew to do everything safely that we need to do on those really busy streets. So,
So the fund that has $200,000 in it,
it's almost 300. It might actually be over 300 right now.
that money is money we put
No,
for into.
Yeah, the state pays us, MDOT pays us to pave KMB, all their state roads, Webb Road, Trafton Road.
Wow, not paid.
Yes, plow, I'm sorry, Fairfield Street, any road that's a state road that the town of Oakland's paying, we actually get paid by the state for that. We've been siphoning this money into an account that's just gotten so large, we don't spend anything from it. And it's,
I feel it would be appropriate. I mean, everybody uses the street.
Right.
Not just the sewer pairs.
So we never spend any of that money?
we never, I mean, we've talked about it, but the thing is, we've never had to because our taxes are always been low. And, you know, it's just, we build it into the budget and it's sitting there and we just used it more of a rainy day fund. If we have a big project like a bridge or culvert on Rice's Rips Road that need to be changed out, and we need a lot of money, we figured we have it right there in case we need it.
So what's going to happen next year when they do KMD? Are there manhole covers expenses that we're going to again have to incur?
yeah, there will be, GOT just contacted me about that in the last month about this project, asked if we had anything that we needed to do in there. We got 4 manhole covers that are actually in the street that we're gonna have to, and they're in need of repair. You can see some of them, they're kind of tilting like this, the bricks have probably come in. So we're gonna be doing the same thing we did on Fairfield Street up there. Fortunately, it's not 30 of them like we had last year, it's only gonna be 4, but that's probably gonna be $20,000 to $25,000 just because of where it's located.
They're doing Belgrade Road next year too, right?
No,
I haven't heard that one. I just heard Webb Road. I know they're doing a big bridge project on that, on the I-95.
And we just give them,
We got something, we got
I
an
think it
email.
was, I sent it on to you
Well,
guys.
this says starting at Route 23, which would be right out here and going 1.68 miles up Kennedy Drive.
Right to where they
And
left off.
It's kind of, they call this an ultra thin. Now, how much is an ultra thin layer of blacktop? I never heard of that
Skinny
before.
mix,
Which
yeah.
is what they, well, what they told me is it's a mill and fill. So they're gonna mill 3/4 of an inch and they're gonna put 3/4 of an inch back is what they told me. And they're only gonna do the travel lane, so they're not paving the shoulders. They're not doing any curb work or driveway transitions. They're just paving.
It looks so bad when they do it that way.
What's that accomplish?
Well, I think, well, one thing, it maintains a profile, but it just probably buys them a little time. It's like everything
it takes the
else.
ruts out of it, so they grind it right now, so it's a flat surface, then you pave over, so it's flat, you don't get
Yeah, the wheel ruts.
so the water doesn't settle in and it's very hard to clean.
Right.
And it's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, buys you, what, 10 years, 5, 10 years.
I don't see any reason not to use that money for manhole covers. I'm not a big fan of having hundreds of thousands of dollars setting aside, particularly unless you know what you're gonna possibly use them for down the road. In the meantime, to fund a regular budget, a regular office, a fire department, police department, we're taking that money from the people already. And it's already available, so. A fund like this that we've never really used for much, this seems like a legitimate use.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll
We
second it.
use this money to pay for
Road project.
covers, manhole covers or whatever.
Or other
To
road
reconstruct on road construction projects.
So a motion was made,
And second.
a second, and all in favor?
Thank you, John.
So is the intent of that motion to continue this process next year when we have the
I think that if
KMD?
we use that.
Yes,
No, I'm just,
yeah, that's my intent, and if we find that the money is building up faster than we're using it, then I think we should talk about that again, but doing something else with it or using it to offset tax increases or something.
We get a check every year from the state. It just goes into that account and I haven't dared to use it because didn't know what would be coming down the pipe. And, you know, it's kind of nice to have it for this situation, so.
You have a different fear level than I do.
Well, that's okay. I have no fear. Believe me when I tell you that.
So I guess I'll, just moving on to things looking forward, I guess, some of the positive things that I think are gonna come this year versus last year. I do think last year was kind of an anomaly, almost like the perfect storm. The electrical costs were up, you know, the vent and the sewer issues with pumping at night. The water bill charges and DOT all kind of hit us at once, and that's why you see the significant overage. This looking forward, like I said a few minutes ago, the rates for KSD is gonna be lower already. We already know that, so that's at least gonna be 15,000 to our benefit next year. Flows, drought conditions, we all know that. I love drought conditions for sure because it means I'm not pumping much to water bill. So that should benefit us by the time the year's done, as far as just the conditions we're having right now. And I'm seeing flows that I've never seen since I've been here. You know, we generally, in the springtime, we're over 300,000 gallons and we're down around 106,000 right now. The previous low was like 115, so we're probably bottomed right out. I don't, it's pretty dry. It's been pretty dry. Kelly just informed me the last 2 weeks that the solar panel funding, this is the first year that it's come through to our sewer department. And right now we're showing because of the solar panel refund, or however that works, we're showing a $16,000 credit right now on our power bills that we didn't have last year. So if you look at, if I'm able to pump at night and we're getting benefits now from the solar panels, I mean, we should be well under electricity budget with those credits from the solar panels. So that's a big plus. The vent I already talked about, pumping at night, we can probably save, if I do 6 months of pumping at night, I can save probably 7,000 a year. And then the final thing that Jan and I have been working with recently with Kelly on is Maine Housing Authority has a program set up right now. They have federal funds to pay water and sewer wastewater companies for arrearages. And we've got right now, probably not including the current bill that just went out, about 35,000 in arrearages that we carry probably pretty regularly.
Yeah.
So this program that's been set up, they will pay a one-time payment for the arrearages for the people that apply. And give either a $200, $350, or $500 credit toward future bills, a one-time thing. And then, so potentially, and then that's it for that program. And basically they're doing it until the money's gone. They have like 4-point-something million or something like that the feds sent down to them. So we don't, who knows how many people are gonna apply. We're gonna put a notice in with the bills for, you know, hopefully you hope that it helps. There's gonna be some people that are obviously, you know, and take advantage of it, but hopefully it's helping the ones that intended to help. And So we'll put a notice in there, but there may be some funds that haven't previously been collected that may be collected with that program. So
Where does the money come from? Or-
it came from the feds. That's all I know
Came from
right
us.
now. So,
Thank you, John.
yeah, I'm gonna reserve my comments on all this, but it is, so my.
Has nothing to do with inflation, so go ahead.
It doesn't, yeah, nothing to do with it at all. I'm guessing this is related, some are related to the COVID money or one of these federal programs that are just keep coming up, but, I don't know that for sure, but it is federal money, so. So the final thing, just to show you, I wanted to, on this, going back to this expense and revenue report, just to summarize kind of where we're at. 2015, we had our rate increase. And you see, we went from in 14-15, 122,000 in the whole that year. We did the rate increase. We was 26,000 the good. Next year's 25. Little over on 18. So we've been kind of bouncing around. But the last several years, I think it's probably related to KSTD and everything else going on. We've kind of seen a steady, 7,600 and 1920, 14,000. So obviously we got the two major sewer projects next year with Lower Main Street, which we hope to reduce I&I. We believe it will. How much remains to be seen. So we should see some benefits there from that, but we won't get that till a year after. So just want to make everybody aware that, we are kind of running around the edge right now, probably with the way things are, and just kind of keep an eye on it and see where we're headed.
I think we need to be starting to talk about a potential rate increase on this. We haven't had a rate increase since 2015. I think it was right at the very beginning of it.
It was.
And as you can see, the cost of operations going up, revenues are staying flat. And that can only work so long. And we need to keep the unrestricted balance in our fund equity at a healthy amount for future problems. I mean, we're dealing with this big renovation that we've got coming on. We're $400,000 out of that to fix that. So I really think that we need to be considering that. We can't keep these rates flat forever. We've done it now for 7, almost 8 years. And, it would be nice to think that we could. And who knows, we might have so much success from this project coming that we won't have to do that. But we're going to plant that seed so you can think about it. We're not actually going to ask you for a rate increase yet, but I think that you need to be thinking about it. We aren't going to know results from Boyd's situation until 2 years, right?
Yeah, it'll be a couple of years after we get it done, just to try to because the precipitation is the key to the whole thing. And if we get a dry year, it gives you a false sense of what we've removed. So we really won't know until we have like a little more of a wet year where the groundwater table stays up. Then we'll know.
And to give you an idea of what I was thinking for rate increase, if we move that is 5%. And what that would do is that would generate an extra $26,000. Not a huge increase, but it would put another $26,000 annually into that account, or keep it close to being flat or a little bit without that. So think about it. We're gonna have to make a move possibly if we don't get all the wins we want from Boyd's construction.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the pickup truck.
Well, questions about what he's gone through. Looking at the audit report, revenues, expenses, which we were just going over, what is the unrestricted balance?
Kind of like a reserve account for us. So basically that was, as I recall, and I don't know if Kelly had a chance to go back and look, but that was before we did our rate increase. That's basically what we have in reserve for things that come up like last year, DOT, or a pump fail, and we have to go out and spend $30,000 on a pump.
So how is that amount figured? Am I assuming that in 2014, 2015, we had 154,000?
Well, that can't be right, because when I took this job, we had $9,500.
I know, that's why I'm asking you.
And actually, I asked that question to Kelly because I said, you had indicated for years that we had like We were down to like 9,500 before the rate increase.
We
So
were gonna make.
We
it
were
another
almost
year.
out of money when
Yeah.
we had to do that 30% rate increase. So we were just about out.
That
Supposedly-
unrestricted balance isn't really accurate.
Yeah.
well, I don't know. That's.
Well, I'm
I mean,
just
this-
saying, you lost 56,000. You lost 14,000 in 2021, yet your unrestricted balance went from 316 up to 339.
Yeah.
So that can't
Yeah.
be, right?
Yeah, so yeah, you're exactly right. No, it's whenever we've got a surplus of revenue.
Right,
That's when it
but so
grows.
these numbers.
Probably are not right. I think the 284 is correct, but how you,
Well, even that, if
Well, I-
we started with, even if we started with 90 or 150, the unrestricted balance has gone up by almost $150,000.
So the payment for the USDA loan comes out of this, and that's 139,000 every year. And,
but that's budgeted. That's part of our budget too. the
but that comes out of
139,000.
that account. So I've got to sit down, I just looked at, when did I get these today?
It was like in the last couple days that Kelly got us. this,
Yeah,
so.
and I just got them today to look at.
So, but to answer your question, the way that, I look at that as a reserve account. So, and actually, these numbers were a little surprising to me because up until last year, which I knew we were over, I had thought we were constantly putting money in there because it was growing. It was 9,500 in 15 or 14, and we were up to nearly 300,000. So, even though I didn't see all these numbers until, last several days, I always felt like we're okay. We're not really at rate increase time right now because we're constantly putting money in, with the exception of last year. If these numbers are accurate, I look at the last 2 years and I say, well, if that's representative of what we're doing, we're to the negative the last couple of years, not a lot, but maybe it's time to start thinking about it. But so I was a little shocked by those numbers, not because it wasn't what I was feeling was happening financially, I guess, from.
Well, yeah, you're right. If we have 284,000 in your reserve fund right now, we're in pretty good shape.
Well, we're not in great shape because we have more than that. We're down. I just gotta find out what's going on above that. But we do have 284,000 in reserve right now. That's part
But
of it in reserve.
we were up to 300 and something thousand. I think that's what you
330.
mean.
Well, what should the reserve account be? How much?
We're going backwards on
No,
it.
but how much should it be backwards from when?
So to me, that's the kind of thing you want to be pulling off from for sewer main replacement. Let's say I wanted to do 300 feet of main because I found this bad section that we need to replace. That 300 feet is going to cost you $50,000 to $60,000. To me, that's the kind of expense that should come out of this reserve because it's something you can't normally budget for. I don't have $60,000 in my budget to invest in the system, or a pump goes down. So I would say you want to have, half of the annual budget, I would think, 250,000 would be a reasonable thing. And that's just kind of a grab at, just because I know things are so expensive in the road, it doesn't take long to chew through $100,000 in a sewer main replacement project, so.
So if that number is correct, then you feel comfortable.
I think we're okay, but if we got 100,000, we got to put into the grant project for Lower Oak Street. So then that's coming next year, so that knocks it down to 184. And then the pickup truck, which we'll talk about in a minute, knocks us down again. If we pay for that out of reserves, now you're down to 140, now I'm not so comfortable anymore, so.
And we gotta transfer money out for the overage.
Right. So, I don't have a crystal ball on that, Don, but I feel comfortable with, 250, but I start getting under that, knowing $100,000 doesn't get me very far on sewer replacement.
Can I also ask if you on the prospective positive, looking forward?
Yep.
Does anything happen at Waterville if everybody has low flows because of the drought conditions? Is there enough variable costs in their outfit, or are they gonna have to raise rates? Because if everybody's sending less stuff there, they're getting less money.
what you're gonna see this year, so they have fixed costs, most of their costs are fixed. I mean, they have some costs, chemicals, things like that, sludge, you know, if they've got less flow coming in, they've got less sludge they're generating. Right now, they're landfilling it with all the PFAS stuff, they can't send it to where they have to send it, so it's costing more money there. Most of their costs are fixed, and that's why you get the wide swings, right? So this year, it's a low flow year right now. So next year's rate, we're gonna see a jump again. I'm pretty confident of that. And it could be a significant jump because the flows are so low.
Yeah. How
So
about the credit from the solar?
I-
How much of these how much do we get from the solar panels and how much goes to the sewer versus?
So, well, I mean, solar panels were sized on the amount of power we use. He's on it, he's got $16,000 worth of credit, so that's gonna be realized next year.
But is there other monies that are going elsewhere from it?
And for the police department.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the departments are on that.
Do you have a sense of?
I think Kelly told me at one point, I don't know exactly how the numbers all fit together, but I think she told me at one point that we're probably the biggest power charge other than the library, I think, maybe. So I believe she had indicated like our percentage is a little higher because
So is it
we're
basically-
using so much energy.
Is it based on the percentage of which usually like the library gets an equal amount or a similar amount?
Right, it's all amount of usage, it's whatever we use for power. Last year, I think I shared with you, we saved $16,000 on last year's electricity bill because of the rate difference between what we were being paid, what we're paying for this.
But this year it should be a lot more than that.
I don't think we're gonna see a much more savings.
Mine's already 16,000 already this
So if yours
year.
is 16 in other places, you get.
Then I would think there'd be more than that, yeah, because I'm only a percentage of
Yeah.
it, so. I don't know, and I don't know if it's a one-time thing, or if I'm gonna see another big credit come
No,
our
you won't see
way.
another big credit come. It's a one-time thing because you can't use the credits for a year. It has to accumulate. So
Oh.
you're gonna use them next year and then it's gonna settle back out.
So we'll see a credit next year again, potentially, for the solar that's generated this year.
But not so much, I don't think.
Nutty, you had something?
Yes, return with me back to the unrestricted balance
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned, a little confused, because when we started talking about it, the comments were, well, it can't possibly be right. And now we think that we might have 284,000 in the bank in a checking account like that.
I believe that number is accurate, Bob.
It's not some accounting thing that we don't really understand what it's made up of, right?
Right, and my understanding is Kelly checked the account.
So this is money in the bank.
Yes, there's money. in the bank.
284,000 we have right now, and that's my understanding in the bank.
I think what you're gonna see is the difference between what we're talking about is that $139,000 fixed payment. I think she might have, I gotta talk with her about it tomorrow, but if you look back at 2014, there was 154,000. If you take the 139 out of it, that's probably closer to the 9,500 that we're talking about. So I think it's just timing on where she grabbed these balances from in the past.
I will tell you that this document, though, once we get whatever bugs worked out, is very helpful. Because it does give a history, for me, I'm a visual person, it gives a great history of the direction we're trending. So that when we're talking about this at next year's budget, we can be looking at this document and we can be saying, okay, is it time for a rate increase or are we okay right now? So I do like this document. I think it'd be.
Well, either for the next meeting, then maybe we could have Kelly's,
Yeah, she wanted to come,
Real-
tonight, but I didn't think I was gonna need her.
Oh.
So, it would have.
next time if she could show up, that would be good. If not, we can stop in and see her individually. It'd be good to have her here next.
But that payment's made during a certain time of year, and, you know, if she would have grabbed this number right before the payment was made, then you would have seen a huge reduction in that amount.
I understand. and It would be nice to know,
Right.
and like,
Right.
if you write a check and then the recipient hasn't cashed it yet, it looks like you've got a lot of money when you may not have much at all. It would be nice to know what we really did.
So the final thing I wanted to talk about was the truck. If in fact this is a direction that it looks like, you know, after the numbers get tweaked or whatever, and it looks like we might want to be considering a rate increase in the near future. I don't feel real comfortable with getting a brand new truck the year we go for a rate increase. I don't think that's a good look. The truck, I guess, it's a 2009, so it's a 13-year-old truck right now. But I guess a little concerned about, you know, what that would look like driving around a brand new truck with the same year we're asking people to pay more money. So just gonna throw that out there as a. I do have quotes called with the second bid. We didn't get any bids. I called all the people for whatever reason, and they're having issues with getting, you know, 6 to 8 month delivery time. I did get quotes. It's actually the lowest, I think, assuming it meets all the requirements, is 39,000 for Mike. Still haven't got anything from work. I've called them a couple times. Everybody's having trouble with the fleet. And
Nobody wants to commit right now.
And nobody wants to commit, right? That's pretty much what they told me. So, you know, I'll do whatever the council wants, but it's just a concern I have if we're in rate increase mode about.
I suggest we sit on it until next meeting when we have a talk with Kelly about, so that at least I more clearly understand how much money we have in hand.
Yep.
Unrestricted. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Restricted, I suppose, would be dedicated funds that are going for fees to water bill or something, and this is, so without really knowing, I mean, we may have, if we got this much cash and we don't, 39,000 is, and I'm not, when we were talking about the rate increase, you weren't suggesting that we do that right now,
No,
that we might have to do that in the
I want
next,
you guys to be thinking about this.
we might have to do it in the next year or two.
Maybe.
Because right now, people are kind of suffering. I think that's fair to say, and if we can avoid that, that would be fine, but I don't know that it's tied to having a truck that works.
Yeah, no, and I just, it's,
So I'd sit on a whole ball of wax. and for 2
I'd
weeks.
rather purchase a vehicle under control than lose your vehicle and go, all right, now what are we gonna
yeah.
You know, just to
do?
answer
It's just
your,
part of doing business.
Yeah.
right, to answer your question, Bob, on the 284, that is a hard number that we actually have. It's the prior year numbers that I'm talking about, that's questionable with me. But that 284, Kelly and I talked about that the other day, and that's after the $139,000 payment. That's what we have right now. As of this moment.
Okay, so that's cash in the bank,
That's what we have.
uncommitted, unrestricted.
My question is 2014-15 number and the 2015 at 16. I'm a little bit concerned about that number, but I think that's when you pull the numbers, looking at the computer going back.
That's the cash we have
Can we
in
go back to 13? Sorry.
on hand. Yes,
I guess I'd just like to be reassured though, because all of these numbers up to that last two, I guess, if you take the 339 minus the 54, you're probably at the 284, right? But to get to that 339, how'd she get that?
And that could be a snapshot thing, like you said, when you're looking at it, it's not, I kind of look at, you know, for the auditors, as of June 30th, that's it, right? So every year, as long as you're paying RD the same time every year, it should all flush out in the wash, you know, if you're looking at that same day, June
I
30th.
think we need Kelly here. 2 weeks.
Can you shed some light on this, Jan? I've noticed you're sitting there.
I know.
Yeah, she's already taken care of it. She'd already texted her.
I haven't, but
I
I did, yeah, we did that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like with, like I said, the last couple of years in the showing the negative, that has me a little concerned, but you know, we're gonna be doing a lot next summer. Originally, Elle and I talked about this quite regularly the last year. And my feeling has always been, hit those pipes in the ground, see what kind of impact they have, and then we'll adjust from there. So,
So we agreed this next time that we're gonna have Kelly, yeah. reference the truck, my personal feeling on it, I don't think you'd look good at 2 o'clock in the morning pushing the truck around the road. No, it's part of doing business, you know, and if we need you to go to respond to a certain place, be a web road, be a KMD, if your truck's not working, how you gonna get there? Right, and if in fact we do have, you know, 200 and some $1,000 in the, you know, we've already set aside the money to buy a truck. I just, it's an operation, it's part of the operation.
Yeah.
If you don't have electricity, you can't pump it up. Well, we gotta have electricity. What's costing more? Okay, well, it's the cost of doing business. You know,
Yeah.
I just think it's, you know, the optics doesn't look good for you if you're pushing the truck when no one's near
Yeah, I get that, I guess.
But the truck is running.
it. But I'm saying,
The truck is running. I mean, it does its job right now.
At this point.
Okay. Well, we wanted to bring it up anyway, just as part of the whole discussion.
Just out of curiosity, not to belabor it, is it budgeted? The truck was budgeted last year?
No, it's coming out of
No,
reserves.
that truck was coming out of
reserves,
fund.
so it wasn't in the budget at all.
We didn't budget.
That's fine, I just.
next item on the agenda is
One more thing, we need to transfer some money.
Yep.
I'm gonna need a motion to transfer $56,688.42. Transfer is gonna be a combination of the fund equity for the sewer department and that fund that we're talking about for MDOT with the 300,000. I've actually got a breakdown on it, but my numbers are on my phone. I'd rather have to make sure they're more
so
accurate.
56,000.
688.42.
Would you need to have that much if you're gonna pull the 39,000?
Well, it's still gotta be transferred out. So that's gotta be transferred out somewhere.
Oh.
So we're gonna transfer.
Where did you want to take that from?
I wanna take it out of, well, I actually wanna take $17,013.37 from the sewer department. And I wanna take $39,675.05, which is the same amount that's on this number here, from the road account, from MDOT road account.
Did we do that one? Did we make a motion for that? Okay. So we're making one for DOT out of the plowing account.
Right.
And then
One for 17,013 out of the sewer account.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Second by Dave, all in favor. Next item up, Oak Street speeding.
Thank you, board. I sent an email out to you back a few weeks ago about some paint, using it as a traffic calming device, I guess. I've been talking with Jeff Hall, the Public Works Director, and Chief Tracy about trying to find a road to try this on. And we'd like to try this on Oak Street before the high school. And unfortunately, I didn't have a picture of what I've seen done elsewhere. And what I've seen done elsewhere is a series of lines that start from the middle line and the outside fog line. And the first one would start in about a foot, and then you go another 25 feet, and it would go in 1.5 feet, and then 2 feet, and then 2.5 feet, all the way up to the point where it's probably got about 4 or 5 feet between the lines. What that does is it gives you a visual that the roads get narrower, and it causes people to slow down. This is a spot that I've had complaints out there. We've had police officers out there. You just can't, I mean, they see that speed sign out there and they hit the throttle and they see how fast they can get it to go up. And we're getting complaints from it. It's worked. I think it was Yarmouth. They tried that and it actually worked down there. So it would be work. It's not a state road, so I don't have to get MDOT permission to do it. It's paint. I mean, we've got the paint. It's white paint. And we find that it looks awful and doesn't work, we can put black paint over the top of it, but I'd like to give it a shot and see what it does. The chief is certainly on board with it. Mike Hatchie, he's our paint guy, and he's been keeping all the paint fresh all through town. And he could probably do this pretty easy.
Sounds worth a try to me.
What do you think? Well, I know that you were concerned with it too.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I thought you were.
Not sure how you know if it's working or not, but I don't object to doing it. Let us know how it works.
I thought you said some of those lines would drive people crazy.
Well, one of the pictures we had,
Yeah, they were like that.
if it's like that,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. I'm good.
I'd make a motion, we give it a try.
And Bob seconds it.
I do. I
All in
like
favor?
it.
It may not work, but it's worth it. It's worth a try.
I think it's gonna be hard to get time to paint it with as much traffic and school traffic as you've got there. You might,
If we don't get it done this fall, maybe we can get it done next summer
Maybe Sunday morning.
or
Yeah.
Sunday or weekend. Yeah, we'll figure it
I
out.
don't know if there's have any days off from school or schedule or not.
I do like those squiggly lines like that. I think that
Your
makes
cars are
sense.
gonna be going like this.
It could be.
I think we've got some drivers in town that see the lines like that anyway.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Going through the audience, Mr. John, do you have anything tonight, sir? Do you have anything tonight else, boy? Kelly, do you have anything?
Dude. The traffic crossing signs are not up on the crosswalks. I had asked for that the last council meeting, the little plastic men that say
Slow down.
must yield to pedestrians and crosswalks, supposed to be one on
Oh,
Pleasant
it's like
Street
that.
and one on Lower Oak Street. Those are not up yet. For crossers, for kids walking to school. And the other thing was, where do we stand with sidewalks
They're going to be done. The one down here
or any?
with the paper. Well, I mean, we put in the budget to have, I think it was 1,000 feet done on Water Street. And we build the budget to go on, around those crosswalks. We did this one last year. We're gonna do Water Street next year. And, I mean, unless the taxpayers want to spend $1 million, we can do them all. But we've got, I think, $20,000 in the budget to do the water.
Just wondering, I haven't seen any crosswalk stuff, sidewalks done, so I just wondered.
Yeah, no, the sidewalks will be done before it snows. And before the pavement.
Okay, thank you.
David,
I'm good.
Bob,
I mean,
Quick one. The dam committee met on Monday and they are in the process of going, well, they've gone out to bid on the Salmon McGraw Dam that's in Belgrade, roughly 27,000, which we knew about, we budgeted. But the village dam in Belgrade needs a tremendous amount of work. And they're projecting it's probably gonna be, if they did it in 2 phases, it would be 40 and 60. If they do it all at once, it might be 90. And those are guesstimates, they haven't got out. But it's gonna be a significant amount that they'll be putting into the request this year.
Did they try to get some grants for some of that? No,
I would,
I don't know that they're already out there. I just wondered if anybody tries.
the only place they've talked about it, and the town managers were not at all enthusiastic. The federal monies that came to us that we have designated for sewer repairs, you could have put it into that. And there was a request by, I think it was a town manager, Belgrade maybe, to consider doing that. I guess you pay one way.
But by the time that came to me, we already committed. to it.
And there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm because what's the difference if you compare that with that money, then you have less money in the other one.
okay,
I make a motion to adjourn.
all in favor? Make a motion, thank you.
It just seems to be no into it.
It's going to.
Have a good night.
good night.
2, 5.
They can't get rid of it.